another batch of junior fours to come a little bit later on. And we're on to this, in between that, sandwiched in between that, we've got some great heats in the senior eights.
So yeah, we've had a lot of junior races now this morning and the beginning of this afternoon, but we're back up to the now senior eights for the GP Jeffreys Memorial Trophy. And first one on now on the Berkshire Station Thames Rowing Club and on the Buck Station Princeton University from the USA. So we've got a bit of an international race here. Both of these crews, I think, saw both of them, they will have raced yesterday, so they're through now to the quarterfinals. So we'd expect a bit closer racing now.
And it seems that way off the start. Really high intensity in the eights always, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you lose any time in that first 100 metres or any distance in that first 100 metres, it really is kind of game over. So you've got to be right up there, right with your opponent, to the end of the island especially. Really intense to have 2 eights off the start there. Lots of noise as well, which is always quite exciting.
Princeton University just slightly overrating. They've got 40... Coming off the end of the island, they had 41 to Thames Rowing Club's 39, and that's paying advantage at the moment. They've got some quarter to a half length lead.
I think this is actually Princeton's second eight as well, because I believe that their first eight will be racing in the Elite Eights tomorrow morning. I think they will be racing another crew from the US, Massachusetts. So this is actually the second crew from Princeton racing in the senior eights against Thames. Of course, Thames have had a pretty successful season. They always are up there at the women's head of the river early on in the season. I think they had recorded quite a good result there. Previous winners of the women's head of the river. I think they always put on a really good show here at Henley Women's, and good to see this sort of international competition bringing everyone together here on the Thames.
Yeah, for a university from the States to be able to bring over 2 crews of such standard is quite something. So yeah, they are the second eight, and I believe they finished second in the Ivy Championships, and so this crew was 6th at the national championships. The Princeton crew here.
I mean, Thames aren't letting them go at all, which
would expect are going to keep going, aren't they?
Yeah, for a club rowing programme where I expect most of the women in that crew are running full-time jobs alongside training as well, to be competing against university athletes. Really exciting to see them coming through halfway, still with some overlap and some really good intensity.
Coming down now past the commentary position, so past the enclosures, you can hear they've got some shouts, and it's still half a length. A really close race. I mean, it was yesterday. Both of these crews produced a really good performance. They both won quite comfortably, but they're not having a comfortable race of it today. Thames absolutely not letting go of them at all. Keeping it to within half a length, making this Princeton University crew race it all the way, race it all out. So Princeton University still up at 37, and because they look a bit shorter, don't they? They look like they're still really pushing it. They haven't actually really settled, so it'll be interesting in the second half of the race. I've still got them at 38 now.
Wow, very
so
punchy.
they've really had to work. So with Thames still having an overlap, we might, although they're still pulling ahead, we might still have a race on here, because Thames have been able to maintain this. They're about 35, so Thames have been cruising it slightly more. They won't have wanted to let Princeton get this far ahead, but maybe we might see a bit of a closer race as we approach the finishing stages.
I mean, they have a couple of pips in the bank to play with. If they're sitting still on their coattails at rate 35 with Princeton a couple of pips above, the last 300 metres, it's a lot of distance to make up, but it could still happen.
You can just see Thames have got that good length of stroke, although it's quite it's hard to say, because they're Princeton looking tidier, I'd say, shorter, sharper, higher rate. I mean, in the eights, it is possible to get that rate up higher and maintain it higher. They've really, really gone for it.
I think Thames might be just starting to claw a tiny bit back just by starting to bring the rates up through the last few 100 metres, but really just clinging on to overlap.
Yeah. Thames have pushed it up now to 38. It's keeping them pushing over, but it was too much to do too late. Great race there in the first quarter-final of the senior eights.
That was a fantastic race. And on to, again, another couple of classy crews here in the senior eights. So this is the second heat that we've got on the course now between Fulham Reach and Brookes University. And as we join them at about the quarter mile, it's the very classy crew of Brookes University who have already started striding out over the crew from Fulham Reach to come past us here in the enclosures. And wow, I mean, they've had an absolutely fantastic season. They won the championship eights at the Brookes Regatta for the first time ever in their club history, in the women's division. And you know, their women's program has gone from strength to strength, and we've seen the men do it so many times, you know, and I think the women are just following their footsteps to build a club where they've got quads entered here today. They've had this fantastic eight, and they won senior eights here last year. So I expect we'll see them progressing through the stages quite well to end up, I would think, probably in the final. But we'll see. That's
your
tip.
prediction. That's your prediction.
But this crew from Fulham Reach, I mean, they're by no means a junior crew. They have a couple of really talented athletes in there. Fulham Reach, of course, brand new club a couple of years ago, and they've done pretty well to be able to raise all the funding to be able to be here and create a crew today.
Fantastic. Back up to the start, senior eights between Newcastle University and UCD ladies. Another heat of a senior eight for the GP Jeffreys Memorial Trophy, sponsored by Simmons and Sons. We've had some great eights racing on the river already today. Newcastle had I saw this crew race yesterday, and Newcastle have got some good crews here, and they looked very impressive yesterday. I didn't get to see the UCD ladies, but just from seeing Newcastle, my money would have been on them, but we'll see as we come in. Newcastle have had a very successful season. I mean, they've really brought their club up. I think Newcastle University won the Victor Ladorum at Bucks. Mm-hmm. They don't, and so they've had a good season, and it's just paying off here. They're just inching ahead, I think. Yeah, absolutely. I think Newcastle renowned for a very quick, very punchy start on the university scene, and I think we've seen that. We've seen that demonstrated here. Some really fantastic calibre in this Newcastle crew. Nicole Lamb at Stroke, who stroked the under-23 8 for the last couple of years. Emily Ford, who sits at 6, she's again another graduate of the under-23 programme and hoping to go again this year. She's in the 4 that got a silver last year. So they've got a couple of really talented athletes in that Newcastle crew up there in the northeast. I know that they have a very tough training programme, but it really does pay off when they come to events like this. And as you say, won the Victor Ladorum at Brookes Regatta. I think that programme that's sort of overall headed up by Angelo Savarino has just come, from absolutely strength to strength over the last few years, and capped it all off again with that win at Brookes Regatta this season. Oh, got a close race here. Newcastle took the early lead, but they've not been able to really pull ahead. They're still up at 36 to University College Dublin, matching them kind of 36, 37. I think it's probably only about a quarter of a length in that. Yeah, it's pretty close race. Oh, now as we come past, you can see the angles pulling out, and Newcastle are now managing to push ahead. This beautiful Henley course. And I think out of the two crews, Newcastle's just looking that little bit more relaxed, especially as they come forward. They just let the boat come underneath them, and I think that's really allowing them to move ahead of Dublin, who are looking like really strong, lots of power through the water there, but just don't quite look as relaxed in that upper body, quite as sort of controlled through the shoulders. I think that's just what's giving Newcastle that extra bit of boat length every stroke. Yeah, it's just got that, you've got that sense of time in the Newcastle boat that you don't quite have. But I mean, you're able to do that, and it is it's not easy to do that when they've still got the overlap, they haven't broken clear, but to be able to give themselves that time and just push, and that's enabling them just to maintain that and keep ahead. They're being pushed though. University College Dublin, Ireland coming over here and really taking this race on. They've still got overlap, and I think they might have got a little bit back in the last 100, 200 metres.
I think it's probably not as comfortable a race as Newcastle will have expected from Dublin. I think it really has. It will certainly make sure that they race to the fullest and to the line, which
they'll just be annoying now. We just like, look, just we just it's giving them a really good race out. I mean, it's amazing to see this, a standard that to be able to produce, because it takes quite a lot to produce an 8, to get that many women ready to be able to produce that. So up at the start now, the final quarter-final I think we are at for the senior 8s. Wallingford on the Berkshire station and Imperial College on the Buckinghamshire station.
So in, again, another couple of big powerhouses of the South when it comes to rowing at this level. Imperial College certainly demonstrate that. They were second at the women's head of the river this year, which was a fantastic performance for them. They've won the title a couple of years previously, but again, I think have really always utilised the 8 boat when it comes to their preference in entering something into Henley Women's. They always produce a really good 8, and I think again a really strong crew that we'll see racing tomorrow, hopefully based on the start they've had there ahead of Wallingford towards the end of the island. I think we'll probably be seeing these guys go through to the latter stages tomorrow, but again, they row on the Thames, they train on the Thames, they're hard cookies. They're used to battling with horrendous conditions, so I'm sure this is an absolute treat for them. Looking at the drone shot there from up above, I think an absolute treat of some conditions for them.
Absolutely. I mean, when you race on the tideway and you get used to so much water coming down, boat wash coming down, and here we've got really great conditions, and they've really managed to stretch out that lead. 35, 36 they were, dropped it down to on the end of the island, dropped it down a little bit more, but pushing out now 2-3 lengths lead, very comfortable. Wallingford still racing it out, but I think this is going to be a much more decided race than the last one we watched. Beautiful picture. So it was interesting seeing I've seen all the drone shots, and yesterday I actually saw the drone for the first time, and I didn't quite know what to expect. It was kind of like, I don't know, cross between a flying football and a giant spider was what I kind of thought. It was weird. I saw it out the corner of my eye, and I literally had that. There's an alien, a giant alien bug or something.
And you can hear it buzzing as well. If you go, if you're up by the start, if you are lucky enough to be here and be sort of watching the race, and if you do head up that way, you can hear the buzz from the little propellers that keep it in the air. It's great.
I didn't know what sort of size, but I would say kind of like a half hollowed out football, maybe about that size, with, I don't know whether it had 4 or 6 kind of spider-like antennae legs, which I suppose it uses to land on. But being able to get right up there shows us some good pictures. I wonder, these are going onto YouTube, so great coaching material. I wouldn't like to be doing, it's not fair to be doing any coaching on this, individual coaching now, but the coaches I'm sure will be using this maybe even between this race and what will certainly be their next round tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I mean, Imperial really aren't sort of taking it down by any means. I think they're using this as a bit of a training piece, ready for perhaps a harder race tomorrow. We've seen some really quality crews go through from the previous couple of rounds, if you've been with us. The likes of Newcastle, who just had a really tight race, Oxford Brookes.
Now they've knocked it down a bit. Now look, just as you said that.
There we
they
go.
Heard
Must
you.
have been the plan.
They heard you. Yeah, I think it is. Again, that was around about the 1,000, just past the 1,000, and very often crews will go, right, we're going to race this as 1,000. No matter what happens, we're going to race this as 1,000 metre piece. because of course the coxes actually, you know, they can't see to read the race. They probably receive a bit of instructions from the bow girl about what's actually happening, but very much they're reliant on, you know, this is okay, we're going to race this out to 1,000, then we'll make a call, then I'll do it. And now but they've got some considerable distance. And very impressive looking crew.
Yeah, do you know what? There's nothing that you can do to replicate that last 500 metres or so. I think, you know, if you can race it to the 1,000 metres, it's very race dependent.
So that'll be interesting. We've got Newcastle University rowing back up after their win there, and Imperial coming down. I wonder at what point they'll meet each other.
Yes.
Maybe in the next round. Be interesting to see. So that was the last of the eights, racing for a while. We had a break from the juniors, but we're back up on the start now with race 160. Junior